Everybody good in this sense? Good afternoon. My name is Frank Clark, the police chief here in the city of Portland. And there's been a lot of calls, a lot of questions that we've received over the past couple of days. Some people that are anxious here in our community. So I just wanted to address the community, address the public, say given the lessons that have been learned and based upon commentaries and open source social media, I'd be remiss if I didn't address some of the public safety concerns in regards to the planned protest being organized here tomorrow afternoon. First, I want to stress that the Portland Police Department will, as always, ensure the constitutional rights of any individual or group to peacefully and lawfully gather and protest. Tomorrow's protest was originally scheduled to take place in Deering Oaks Park, a public location that would have allowed a safe space for gathering, messaging, and dialogue. Instead, the event has since been moved here in front of police headquarters and is not scheduled to end until after it gets dark. Unlike with the more restrictive COVID situation during the June protests here in the city, our restaurants and businesses are now open, and we'd anticipate diners and other vehicular, pedestrian, and visitor traffic in the downtown area on a nice Saturday evening on Labor Day weekend. The social media messaging has indicated that tomorrow's protesters are seeking a large number of people to participate in civil disobedience. At the same time, they've also been soliciting bail monies on social media. These are some of the concerns that we've heard from members of the public. I know that has led to a reasonable assumption by some that some members of the group may intend to break the law and or be arrested. Some social media posts, not from the organizers, but from at least one individual who claims that they'll be here in attendance, express a belief that rioting, burning, and looting are justifiable means of protest, and suffice it to say, they are not. So having said that, I've been in touch with the organizers of the actual protest and have been assured that their intent is for it to be a peaceful event. And the civil disobedience will essentially include blocking of city streets. At the same time, we're seeing social media posts indicating that counter-protesters are planning to be present here in the city as well, potentially armed and expressing a willingness to use force so as to protect the community from violence and damage. Posts have included messages that encourage the use of weapons, intimidation, and threats. And let me be clear, vigilanteism is something that is not needed and is not welcome here in the city of Portland. If your intentions are indeed to help, please let us do our job of protecting this community and its residents. The presence of armed civilians will only increase tensions, the likelihood of confrontations, and cause unwarranted public alarm. It will also only lead to distractions and potential confusion for our police officers, putting them and members of the public at even greater risk. So why am I sharing this? Again, to address the concerns that we've heard from our community. We do not want the conflict seen elsewhere here to come to our community. To the public and to our community, you need to be aware of these concerns as you make your plans for tomorrow evening. There's a potential for a sizable gathering that's likely to have some impacts here to traffic flow and pedestrian access. To those contemplating attendance, I wanted you to know of the disconcerting social media commentaries that reflect at least the stated intentions of some to participate in dangerous behavior. To the protesters and counter-protesters, we respect your right to peacefully and lawfully protest, but leave your guns and bad intentions at home. Work with us to help create a safe space for your messages to be heard. Do not put my officers in the position of reacting to possible threats, violence, or criminal acts, and simply go home and peacefully disperse when the event ends. To my officers, my message is to hold your heads high as you work to protect the protesters and our community. You are part of a professional organization, the values of which are leadership, integrity, and service. I know you make me proud as you carry out your duties and responsibilities with professionalism, respect, and restraint. Please know that I appreciate your dedication to our agency, our community, and each other. So to close, I do want to assure the public that your police force stands prepared to react and respond to any emergency and will not tolerate violence towards the community or its police officers. But that said, the goal here is for us all to lower the temperature and simply ask for calm. And that's what we're here to do. So I thank you, and I'm going to step aside and let District Attorney Jonathan Sarbeck come up to the podium.
Well, thank you, Chief, and I appreciate everybody being here. I'm Jonathan Sarbeck. I'm the District Attorney here in Cumberland County. First and foremost, I want to thank the members of the Portland Police Department I think that they've been out here for the last few months and have been dealing with the situation that's been handed to them, not just with the pandemic, but with every circumstances, with professionalism and courtesy. And I really appreciate all that they've done. And I think that our community really, as a member of this community, all should say thank you. I want to reiterate what the chief just said, that the violence that happened in June should not be happening again. I understand that my office did not go forward with some arrests on failure to disperse this last weekend. I want to make sure that people understand that that is not a policy, that we will go forward with criminal charges if necessary. And if violence happens this weekend, if arrests are made this weekend, my office will look into prosecution of those cases. I want to be clear about that. One of the things that I think is really important to understand is that the messages that need to get out there, the best way to get them out is by peaceful protest. Violence will only interfere with whatever message people want to get out, and they should take that step to ensure that themselves and the people that they're associating with are acting accordingly. So thank you very much for your time.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Snyder. I'm the mayor of Portland, and I want to thank you for being here today and for the chief's invitation to join in this afternoon's press conference. Portland is a community that values our ability to exercise free speech and an individual's right to protest. We also value safety and security for our community and for those who are visiting our wonderful city. I want to thank the chief for his leadership in terms of working with protesters to make sure that voices can be heard, messages can be shared, and that people have an environment that is conducive to those things. We've experienced some protests in the past. We're learning, we're working together with folks. We value the messages that are out there and the people who are out there. We want to work with folks. But I just want to reiterate that we are a community that both elevates and prioritizes freedom of speech, right to protest, as well as safety and security for those who live here, those who work here, and those who visit here. Happy to take any questions along with the chief and others as we go through the conference.
Any questions for a follow-up? Matt?
The response to the June protests were kind of an emerging situation. I feel like there's more pieces in place right now to actively address some of these questions. And that's my first question. The second is...
Let me start with that one before I forget that one. You know, I better answer these as they come. So yeah, I think we do feel pretty good about the place that we're at here in terms of our preparation. You know, we did work through a number of different scenarios and situations during that first week of June and learn from each of those. One of the things that I'm heartened about in this instance is the fact that we are communicating with the organizers, which I think was missing during the early part of that first week of June. So I think that's going to be key, right? So we're going to continue to work with them and look to make sure that, again, one of our objectives is that we're providing that safe space for them here to protest peacefully in the city as we move forward. So.
Do you also have mutual aid departments on standby?
Yes, we are working with our other partners here in the area, making sure that folks are aware. But I think we've taken the appropriate steps again to be prepared in the event of the need to respond to some sort of situation or emergency. But we're feeling pretty good in terms of working with the group that we'll be able to work through this over the weekend.
I also saw that there's rental lights, orange construction lights. Is that part of that preparation?
It is, yeah. That was something that we ended up doing towards the tail end of that first week in order to provide a little more ability to see for our.
What are your thoughts on if there were counter-protesters to show up with guns, especially some of the larger ones that we saw at this protest nationally? What are you guys prepared to do in terms of defending the rights, but also keeping
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons we're certainly here today, is to be preemptive and proactive in terms of asking those people that are considering that to leave those weapons at home. So I think that's step one. And then we'll be addressing those on a case-by-case basis for folks that do show up.
What tools do you have to actually tell someone with a weapon, don't bring that? I mean, Maine's an open carry state.
In terms of legalities, you're right. Again, and we're just asking for people to be reasonable and responsible, quite frankly, and asking for like voluntary compliance, essentially, so that we can make sure that we have a safe and a peaceful protest over the weekend.
How much of your reaction is based on what you're seeing in social media locally, and how much of your preparation now is the deaths and the potential national? What's the balance in your assessment between local and national?
Yeah, I mean, both are obviously some degree of factors. We have a safe community here in the city of Portland. I think a lot of that is due to the work of the men and women here at the Portland Police Department. So we're looking at all those things, and that is some of the things. One of the reasons that we're looking at those things is because that's some of the questions that we're getting from our community, right? So it's those are the concerns that they are seeing what's happening elsewhere in the country. So again, it all comes down to us being prepared. But I think the real key is communication and working with the folks that are going to be here to make sure that we all have a peaceful Saturday afternoon.
Just to clarify here, you mentioned weapons. Is that counter-protesters, or is that people that are part of the movement that you're seeing on social media, or both? Or are you concerned about
The majority that I've seen have been on the counter-protest side of that equation, yes.
I have one for the mayor, possibly. So, one of the major reasons why these protests are happening are obviously to have changes happen within the city. What are you trying to do here in Portland to try and address, that question?
The protests have brought increased awareness of issues that need to be addressed. One of the things that the council did back in July was to establish a racial equity steering committee. That committee will actually be named this coming Wednesday, September 9th, at our upcoming council meeting. And that resolution spells out several goals and objectives associated with starting the conversation with regard to systemic and structural inequities that exist. I think that working together and offering folks a seat at the table in a variety of ways is important. I've reached out to the BLM Portland movement with an offer to meet. We're scheduling a time. It's taken a little while because there are a lot of folks and schedules and that kind of thing to accommodate. But I think that in terms of my work individually and our work as a council, we're looking to be responsive and responsible to the community as we are in so many ways. And so when we talk about change, I think it's really important to do that in an environment that engages many voices and contemplates various viewpoints and really brings people together to have deep and meaningful discussions.
What about more immediate actions? Are there any specific immediate actions that you think need to be addressed right away when it comes to racism?
Can you give me an example?
I'm asking you what you're prioritizing for more immediate actions to address racism, racist bias.
Yeah, so I guess I would go back to the action that the council took in July with regard to setting up an opportunity for people to talk about specific issues and what actions can be taken most responsibly in the city of Portland against our context. I think that's something that is so important to be mindful of, is that our city's context is not the exact same as any other city's context. And so the responses that we develop and actions that we take need to be specific to the city of Portland. And again, the council is very interested in engaging the community and the public within these conversations, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Mayor, do you plan to be at the protest tomorrow, or do you know if other city councilors will?
I am not sure about whether or not other city councilors are, and I haven't made up my own mind.
Last time, the state police closed exit 7, and so like earlier was closed in the hour. We're going to have real-time warnings for people coming down to say the closed exit arterial will not the way people can find out.
Yeah, we can look at using Twitter or social media or something like that in that sort of an effort, but I would say at this point, that I would plan on portions of Franklin Arterial being closed for at least a good percentage of that time period on Saturday, as well as this section of Middle Street between Franklin and Pearl.
Chief, I had a question about the cost to Portland Police Department, or how does it work when other jurisdictions get called in for a protest? Like I think the one in June maybe had other jurisdictions involved.
Yeah, each jurisdiction pays their officers independently. That's not something that's reimbursed by the city of Portland, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. So do you know how many jurisdictions will be here tomorrow?
That's something I probably won't get into at this point.
Do you advise any of the restaurants or businesses around here?
Yeah, the downtown district, I know, advised their folks of the fact that there was a protest and provided them that information. And I think the same was done across the street here on Middle as well. It wasn't the police staff.
I know there were some concerns last time about snipers on the roof, or the occurrence of snipers on the roofs of buildings around here. Do you plan to have that kind of reinforcement again?
We'll have resources in place that we feel are appropriate in order to protect the community and the protesters.
Does that include those?
That's how I'm not going to talk tactics or anything like the response in any sort of detail.
You mentioned that you're been in communication with the organizers. There's definitely a dynamic in June where there's a sanctioned protest that more or less concluded near sundown, and then a number of people stayed and things escalated. Is there been any agreement with the organizers to communicate to people to show up in support of the demonstration and say, please be peaceful? You know, we've seen that call before. Is there any effort to try to put not a demarcation and say, okay, go home, but this is what we want to do, and this is who we are, and if you're with us, please do this. You know, some communication like that, or you working on that?
Yeah, we have had that conversation and that communication, and I think there was some messaging that they put out on their social media page yesterday that addressed some of what you're talking about, I think. So I have to relook at it. Great. Appreciate you coming out. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.